Hello, and thanks for joining. I'm Keith Conley, Director of Analytics for Bunchball. Today we'll be discussing how Tableau enables a unique data discovery for a fast-paced software company in an emerging industry. We'll start with some background on Bunchball and then go into the steps we took to make the most of our current opportunity. We were founded in 2005 by our Chief Product Officer, Rajat Paharia. He's not only the reason Bunchball exists today, but his vision is really the primary component of why I'm here today. Rajat is known as the father of gamification, which is otherwise known as measure and motivate, or reward and recognition. And this is something that within gamification, game designers have been doing and honing their craft in digital environments for years. It's our new understanding of motivation combined with the emergence of big data streams that have enabled these techniques to be used outside of the gaming world, where we can now use these powerful tools to drive engagement, participation, and high-value activity. It's from this notion that we actually derive our mantra. Bunchball enables organizations to improve business performance throughout their ecosystem by creating highly active and loyal customers, employees, and partners. And what Rajat did was create a behavioral tracking tool and rules engine capable of recording and responding to user interactions and transactions in multiple digital environments, and then link the results together in a unified view or a profile. And this is really the first component of our data. When we look at what we collect, it loads a behavior-based user activity in a variety of environments. And when I say environments, I am speaking about these connections here, the websites, web applications, customer relationship management tools, and social collaborations tools on either mobile or desktop devices. For a second look at our data set, we'll take a look at our clients. And so we offer our products with two focal points. We aim at employee motivation and audience engagement. And within both, you'll see a variety of industries with different operating models and use cases. And this is a challenge for our analytics team. It requires a broad set of models and analyses to make relevant use of the data generated from sales teams, client support portals, and call centers, et cetera. Even if we look at the diverse client set within audience engagement, a TV network website aggregator doesn't have the same analyses, productivity metrics, or ROI models, as a consumer packaging good company. To further, then complicate the data that's out there, Rajat wrote a book called Loyalty 3.0, and this details how to leverage the motivation, big data, and gamification all together. And it's recognition that the data we generate can have purpose. Every online interaction generates a plethora of data to be captured, organized, and analyzed, potentially offering true insight into what people really do and when they do it. And so he actually added 15 new variables for our data through this book, recognizing the 5 intrinsic motivators and the 10 key mechanics of gamification needed to contextualize the impact that our software has in terms of its design and business impact there. So now we have most of the crux of our daily mission. So what we're doing is making sense of millions of transactions in various environments, and then we have the digital strategy component. So we use these motivational techniques to build a more rewarding experience for the user. And to do that, we need to understand the user lifecycle, the game mechanics in play, user preferences set to personalize the experience to the individual, with an aim to increase autonomy, provide a sense of progress, purpose, and sustainability through missions and challenges, increase social activity, and then finally, mastery of the tool. And it's this that drives our key value proposition of adoption and continuous engagement. I think this video here explains how it works. It gives you a sense of what our data looks like as well.
What's going on here, Todd? Nothing is getting done.
Let's fire someone.
Let's send everybody a threatening email. What is that? Do you share that?
So there, I hope you can start to see, the different roles that are involved, the different reasons we'd be motivating particular behaviors. And so all of that adds to the level of complexity within our data. And what I ended up relating was that our data is unique and three-dimensional, like a snowflake. And I'm pretty sure I was surrounded in this blizzard of informative bits coming at me from every direction. And what I needed to do was find a way to get out of the storm and start getting a way to control the environment, to make sense of what was going on around me. And this talk is about how we did that. Welcome to Optimal Design Through Data. This here, this construct of user ID, action, and timestamp is the root of our data from a single action point. From this basic unit, a lot of data is added to various tables or appended to the data itself here for use in the program. For user IDs, we can add user preferences such as groups or teams or role, and these are helped to indicate what gamification components are pertinent to the user and provide the software the ability to filter leaderboards, use what challenges are going to be appropriate, and whatnot. And then we also have the ability to append data to the root action. And so, say we had an action of just video watch. Well, that may be informative, understanding what country it happened in, whether it was on a device or on a mobile device or on a desktop, or what the particular piece of content that was actually being used makes that much more, informative as we move forward. And the actions are also, the root that kicks off other game mechanics driven by our software, including challenges, points, notifications, levels, and items redeemed. And to ensure these components are built correctly, what we do is actually tailor this all together in a plan we call the Measurement and Learning Plan. So within this framework here is how we start to relate the data that goes into our Tableau workbooks. This serves off as a kickoff and a root of the initial deployment activities. So gamification strategy, technical implementation, and analytics adapt to the digital environment of our client in order to support the goals and enable optimization. So this framework that we're looking at here provides a basis for a digital strategy to ensure the key activities and data considerations are included in order to later demonstrate success of the program. And technical implementation then takes that to make sure that's translated correctly into the software itself. So during this time, we're actually here within milestones 1, 2, and 3. This is where we're compiling this information. We interview the stakeholders to get a sense of what they struggle with most and get a firsthand account of what is needed to better understand how to shape the goals and KPIs here. So going back to the M&L and the data that's included, it's very common that our clients will need some coaching within goal setting and establishing KPIs, and we definitely encourage the deployment objectives to be stated business goals. So rather than taking a look at increased engagement, we want to understand that within this environment we're increasing engagement for a business purpose, and so we try to extract that information out there and capture it here so that we can be really creative with the digital strategy implementation. And then from a data standpoint, we make sure that the KPIs listed here are the measurable components of the deployment goal. So the KPIs listed are a direct reflection of goal achievement, or at least the strongest correlation that we can get there. We have to understand that we don't always measure end to end from what's driving the impact to the goal to actually completing it. So we also look at driving primary KPIs, which are those closest or direct links, and secondary KPIs, which can be important metrics or statistics used for program learning and optimization. This component of the work also filters into Tableau through the action naming convention. Here is where we'll decide what are the root actions that we're going to enable to allow us to categorize information quickly and easily, as well as provide whatever contextual data is going to be needed in the program. And so these nuanced decisions are usually done by our digital strategy team, and they're considerations that, from a behavior standpoint, that will be used to tailor these individual experiences. So what does the user's role play as a part of the digital experience? How does geography or specific achievements impact? that as well. And we'll also start to collect data sources available for reporting on the tool. As mentioned before, when we're unable to connect, the end-to-end experience in terms of our impact, often our clients are willing to actually send in data sources or to allow us to connect to data sources there as well. So aside from pulling from our own MySQL databases, we may be receiving downloadable reports or connected to a Google Analytics account of our clients that allow us to actually piece together the entirety of the environment there as well. And then another thing we do with this is actually encourage a silent tracking time period. And so one way we inform users of proper digital strategy is via silent tracking. And in cases where behavioral benchmarks are unavailable, we can use this time period to define where we are, what needs to be improved, and what can determine the proper increments for motivating users. It also, has some reliability aspect too, in that it ensures what data is coming through is as expected. So here what we're looking at is a sample report for silent tracking. This is often the first time our clients will see behavioral data from their audience outside of like rolled up web metrics. And we feel there's a big difference between saying you received 19,000 visits and 800 new leads yesterday versus looking at what we have here. It's also maybe the first time they're logging in to view data within Tableau as well. Although this looks like a static chart, this isn't the entire report that we put in. But even here, it's used some very nice metrics that are able to be compiled very simply. Detailed in the screenshot is activity against your most sought after engagements, things like videos, opt-ins, gameplays, shares, and etc. And they're put in context with two things. Typically, we'll record how often these activities happen within a month or another selected time frame. We'll use that to set appropriate frequencies. And then we'll also look at the composition of the audience taking a particular action as a way to judge the difficulty or level of motivation necessary to move somebody towards that action. And so these are very simple tables to set up with using Tableau, but they use some things that are not fundamental to all tools, including things like count distinct and the ability to do percent of all within the table very quickly. Next, within this report, we need to relate those standard activities or benchmarks to the business goals listed, and we do this via a few different reports that we're going to cover now. So, also generated within Tableau is our Pareto Analysis. This gives us an 80-20, which is a good indication, initially anyway, of the overall engagement of the program. So we think of a healthy program as having 20% of your users is generating 80% of the activity. If we're beyond that, we know we have a possibility that we want to raise, and we have a benchmark to look after it. And then we also, using this Pareto analysis here, can start to get into segmentation. And so by doing that, you can see the top 20% of users here are highlighted. And what we'll do is create a set within that to identify these top 20% of users have some value here. And so we're going to look at what they're doing within the site. But aside from overall engagement and based on activity, we can also use the information to say, of the users who are doing the desired action we want the most, say it is generating leads or completing sales, and use this chart then to segment those users appropriately as well. And in both cases, we're going to create profiles based on them. So we'll take a look at that top 20% and generate an activity profile based on the naming conventions driven to the system. Then we can say, what are they doing? What is an engaged, interested user on a daily basis doing? What does their activity profile look like? And here, I don't list the individual components here, but you can see the observation is that the top 20% are accepting more assignments and pushing them through the funnel, while the less active users are receiving a high portion of their activity attributed to both chatter and prospecting. So with that, that gives our game designers, our digital strategists, the ability to go in and really think about what they can do to model to get the 80% up to the model level of the top 20. Another key component of the silent tracking elements is the regression analysis. So using that data, with a timestamp, we can actually see each action as recorded, with a timestamp. So we know whether or not the desired action that we're going for happened, and then we can say what they were doing before and after that desired behavior. So, using that into a regression analysis to see what is driving the desired activity we want can also be used to really, design the gamification elements we have at play in order to get people to take the action desired. Really, to cement how this information is used, I wanted to walk you through creating a challenge within our system so you can see what the decision points are there as well. And we'll do that right after we get into binning, which in the binning table here, what this shows is, aside from averages and the frequencies that we see, we want to see at what levels our individuals are actually taking particular steps. So for this one here, if we were to say the average person usually generates a user-generated content 3 times within a month, then we can take a look at that and say that's on average, but we already know that of the people that are taking that action, only 4% of the audience is actually doing it. And when we look at it overall, it's a very small set of users who are doing it more than once. So that's going to be very informative as we get into our progressive challenges in terms of what levels we should increment the desired behavior. Looking into what goes into designing a challenge and building it, first we're going to create a new challenge. Here, using the silent tracking and ML data, we have a good idea of what some of the initial challenges we can use to increase engagement are and how they can drive to our goals. So here, we've got one created for tweeting about a user group. And then we start to see where the other data sets come in. We can set our requirements, and this is where the preference and group information listed within the ML come into play. Here they got listed which different teams are going to be available for this. And as implemented by technical services, which group roles and other particular users are going to be able to compete in this particular activity, because it doesn't have to be audience-wide. You want to be able to speak to individuals and make this a very personalized experience for them. Next, we'll take a look at what actions need to take place. So here, the root actions can be used alone or paired in multi-action challenges, and considerations for this component are regularly determined by the regression analysis and user composition metrics mentioned before. So if it's known that adding a second context to an opportunity is the key driver of getting it to close, we're going to want to encourage that action. And we can also use this to encourage users to explore the environment to ensure they're getting the most value from the experience. Step 4 is also a critical one, because here we're adding the detail to which a good amount of the future optimization work can be employed. So here the challenge can be deemed a worth via the point offering. We'll determine whether or not a user is going to receive a badge that goes in with that, and whether or not the notifications can be triggered along with it. And so with these, initial estimates for point issuance and badge delivery, and whether or not a notification is warranted, are made based upon the current benchmarks and provide rich avenues for analysis and optimization later. So all of these components come in and are based off the initial analysis that is provided. And once you're live, these things take root, and you can actually start to see, how valuable it is to have that previous set of data versus the live set of data. Because here now you can see how users are interacting with the gamification elements and explain them in context. Here we've got 2 Tableau tables that allow you to see the elements are working as designed, and also find potentially root cause for what may be going on if it's not as designed. And this is the typical type of analysis that we provide for ongoing optimization of a program. Within this particular view, here we're looking at a progressive level of a particular action, posting to a wall. And here you can see that only about 8% of the users had moved on to level 2 within the first 60 days. And so what we did here was then compare that to the previous set of data through action binning to say, you know what, if this were compared to previous times, you've had much fewer people in there. So good job. We're motivating more people to take the action. But still the increment levels, as judged by only 8% moving on, are likely too much here. So we're going to want to adjust that. So that's great when we're talking about optimization, but we also want to be able to address success metrics and speak to the success of the program that is available, from some of the both live tracking and silent tracking process. A huge benefit to quickly assimilating data in Tableau is immediately expressing our impact via dashboards and unique reports. Here we're able to continue the conversation from optimization to program success using the same terms we identified through the data and then aggregated and segmented into ways that demonstrate success. So here what we're looking at is taking a look at our anonymous users versus our registered users, which we use a calculated field within Tableau to recognize, and then look at their incremental lift over standard usage. And we do that in both the actions per user, basically our frequency, and then the composition of the audience that's taking that action. Are we getting more members of the audience to do something, and are they doing it more often? Tableau makes it very easy to demonstrate that information. In the next section, I want to illuminate really what about Tableau enables us to make quick sense out of the complex data our deployments create, and then cover some examples. I've already spoken about some of the various benefits that we receive through it, and it's the ability for various connectors. We can connect to various data sets of our clients, both internally and externally, and then blend those data sets together seamlessly, which is great. I've tried to demonstrate some of the beautiful visualizations and complex analyses that can be provided there, as well as some of the quick play things that make it so useful in terms of creating groups, writing calculated fields, and then just the simple one of count distinct. I mean, it's so great to have that at your fingertips. Also demonstrate a little bit of the simple filtering that we provide and parameters that allow our users to aggregate data on daily, weekly, or monthly bases there, as well as the distribution methods through Tableau Online that our clients use to log into the data and see their reports. And then demonstrate some of the other functionality that our clients enjoy within that. So right here we have a pretty basic Tableau Online example of a Nitro dashboard. This is basically a trending offering to initially look at data, see what is the level of activity we see, and is it growing or is it staying stable? So the unique thing about here is we're looking at the biweekly active percent of users. So this is a unique one for us in that it's actually a Salesforce metric as they look into true login percentage on a biweekly basis to take a look at their level of engagement or adoption. And so here we want to mirror that in order to say, are we getting enough of the audience in on a biweekly basis to say we're being successful? Below that, we're quickly transferring it into a monthly look into both active users and actions per users. Because here we're saying, are more people going into the system? Are they doing more often? And providing that in a very simple view and comparing it to the average within the system there as well. Below that, we're taking a look at the trended activity of a particular activity. So here it's claims. We'll see two spikes there, which probably should be explained, right? So we can go in and use the annotation feature, which I'll demonstrate a little later, how our clients have done that in the past. And again, as shown before, we have the most active members. We have our view of the Pareto, as well as the overall profiles of who's doing well versus who could use improvement. And that's something standard that we want to do because we want to look at it on a monthly basis to say, of the optimizations that we put in place, are we driving, different sets of behavior. Next, we're looking at a data set that I know it looks maybe not confusing, but dense, at this point. And that's because I wanted to demonstrate all the data that's in it. And, it's important to us because it actually integrates 5 data sets from 3 different sources for us. So this is a part of, Nitro going beyond just what we report on and being able to, expand it to provide the most benefit to our client organization here. So at the top, we're reporting against the business goals of our client, to say, how are we doing in terms of, enrollment, and then looking at activity, which is the Nitro component, to say, what is the activity levels that we're driving and how are people interacting with the system? And then the data provided at the bottom is actually for program managers and, taking a look at how they can optimize the program and keep track of who the most important players are and how they're doing. And this is really the first time they've been able to see all of it completely together, which is excellent. Here we have an example of uniquely applied business rules. So within Nitro, we define an active user as someone who has taken an action within the environment that's been recorded by Nitro within any time period. For this particular client, they had a unique definition. They wanted to be able to say that they could prove the users took it with intent. And so they put a couple parameters as to that activity that were recorded that to them was indicative, and to us, that was indicative that the user was doing something knowingly within the program. And so here we use the Nitro data filtered down to a set that met the client's needs, and then used their definitions to report out on the metrics. And this was greatly appreciated by them because it wasn't necessarily, our definition in numbers didn't necessarily map to how they looked at things. And so to be able to meet them on their ground and then present them with the information was greatly appreciated. Here, we actually provide all segmentation based on external data sets. So within the information that we collect, on the user activities and everything, it didn't get down to the granular level that made it appropriate for the business to optimize on and talk about. And so here we're provided third-party data sets that are tied together through Nitro in order to make the possibilities to see, basically within industries, within different regions and different roles, how they're taking to the gamification program and what they're attracted to. So one of the cool things here is not only do we have all the filters available for choosing up here, but the actual data set is provided in a way that we can filter the information via the map as well, which is a really easy way for different managers and regions to look at the data, as well as overall managers to dig into different roles. So all of this information, the way it goes up to our clients, we do log into Tableau Online, which they can log into on a regular basis, and we generally set monthly reviews. And so those start with an initial review of the data as it's presented within the dashboard, and then we try to drill down. And we usually prepare data for things like that, prior to going in. So we certainly don't go in blind, but we do is try to create unique data points out of that as well. So here we've got a time-based analysis, which we did for one of our television partners, and said, here's where you're seeing your most activity. And then we blew that out very quickly and easily with Tableau to say, within this activity, within these 4 hours, here's what they're doing. And this was amazingly insightful and done on an easy basis. We recognize something through the dashboard, and then we're able to drill down with Tableau and then communicate that out to the clients very succinctly and very easily. But it's not based on necessarily just us going in on a monthly basis and viewing the data. The clients also have the ability to log in at their own time and when they have the ability to, and then ask us questions based on that as well. So at that point, wanted to see if there were any questions, but definitely appreciate your time and hope you enjoyed it.